Today on Aging Untold, we'll explain what hospice is and isn't.
And that's not what hospice is. It's not about giving up. It's about getting some extra help and getting comfort.
And provide you with tools to help you determine if and when hospice care is needed for you or your loved one. Plus, they're the body's building blocks and critical to your overall well-being.
As we get older, you're going to get accelerated aging, especially if you damage the cells.
We break down good cell health and why it matters to you. And he's worn many hats in his life.
It just came naturally. I started doing a little bit of curving and I said, you know, if a little curving is good, more is better.
Now he's trying his hand at carving creative, custom hats. Experts with advice and solutions. You're watching Aging Untold with Aging Well Coach Catherine Ambrose, gerontologist Sam Craddock, aging expert Amy O'Rourke, and board-certified physician Dr. Ray Rogers. We're all getting older. It's about time we talked about it.
Welcome to Aging Untold. When many people hear the word hospice, they think it means giving up or that the end is near. But more than 1.5 million Americans receive hospice care each year, and experts say it's not about dying, it's about living well for whatever time remains. Amy, you're an expert on this topic. What do you think people need to know about this critical care?
I think the first thing I'd want to talk about is, one, Medicare covers hospice services. So if you're Medicare eligible and you're on traditional Medicare, you can get hospice and it's free. So you get services that are provided. You get a free doctor, you get a free social worker, you get a free chaplain, you get your medicines that are related to your diagnosis covered, you get equipment and supplies. You have to be given 6 months or less to live, and then you have to be reevaluated to go back onto hospice. And I think, Sam, you've had a lot of experience in this area.
I have, and I teach a lot on this. You know, you have to come to a place in life to realize that we are immortal. We aren't immortal. Mm-hmm. We are going to pass away, and we're going to go through that final sunset, and you need to be able to do that on your own terms. Mm-hmm. And nobody wants to do it in a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. I understand that we don't want to lose our loved ones, and we don't want to say goodbye to our loved ones, but choosing hospice oftentimes is the best choice you can make for yourself and giving yourself the best advantage at that time.
And your family.
Yeah.
So I think what we want to really address is the myth that it's only for people that just have days or weeks to live. Mm-hmm. In fact, to the contrary, that's one of the challenges, is that people wait too long to let hospice come in. It's your right to do your own investigation, your own due diligence, and carefully select the hospice company that you want. Mm-hmm. And when you have questions about the care, how much time you're getting, whatever it is, go up the chain and get your questions answered, get the care you want, or you can revoke hospice at any time or transfer hospice companies. So you are in the driver's seat, not the hospital, not anybody else.
That's right.
I think it's important for the audience to understand, to make it really clear what it is, what it's not. You know, it really is just a shift from someone who is not going to be cured. You just want to provide comfort, mm-hmm. dignity, and quality of life. It mm-hmm. doesn't mean that you're pulling the plug or you're walking away or withholding anything like people say. Mm-hmm. And I think, like you said, you reevaluate every 6 months. If that person is doing better 6 months, you can discharge out.
You can. And I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen it oftentimes where people will improve. So that criteria is at the rate of decline. At the way my condition is declining today, I'm expected to live 6 months or less. If 3 months in I start improving miraculously, I can be discharged and I can graduate from hospice and go on, and a year later or on down the road need it again.
And in addition to that, if you fell and broke your hip and you had to go to the hospital, you go off hospice, right. You go back on traditional Medicare, mm-hmm. you go back on hospice. So it's very fluid.
And hospice meets you wherever you are. They come to you, whether it's the hospital, your home, and when you no longer need it, they're still there for your family. They're required to provide 13 months of bereavement.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they are.
And so it's a very important benefit that we have, And I just hate for people to miss out on it because they say, well, I don't want to give up. If that man's going to keep fighting, I want to keep fighting for him. And that's not what hospice is. It's not about giving up. It's about getting some extra help.
And the one thing that I see a lot of families that get really frustrated is they think that this is a 24/7 thing, and they think that it's going to provide the caregivers. They think that they're going to have all this extra. There is a lot of support that comes with hospice. There's a lot, and I advocate for hospice all the time. But it's not your 24/7 caregiver. It's not the person that's coming in and doing the feeding assist. They're nurses, they're bathing aides, they're running supplies, they're doing all the things that they can, but you may still need some outside support. So please don't think that it's going to provide every little bit of care that's needed.
The other thing it does that I hate knowing, but in this country, if you're on hospice, it's the only absolutely sure way to stay out of the hospital.
Okay.
So if you're on hospice and something happens in the home, it's okay not to call 911. It's okay to call the hospice company. You can call 911. It's not that you couldn't, but it's the only confident way to stay out of the hospital. Sometimes I've had people say, I just can't stand another hospital stay. I don't want them picking me apart. I want to stay home.
Right.
Well, let's go on hospice so that doesn't happen to you.
Right.
Yeah, I think people just have to understand that's what hospice is for. When you have that serious condition and treatment is not going to help, or the treatment is more of a burden.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's such a loaded term, and there's so much misconception and fear around hospice, and that's what we want to do is help bring some of that out so people can feel better and ask their own questions. We're all about empowerment here. Keep it right here. We'll be right back with Aging Untold.
Coming up,
I have a heart pump that pumps my heart, and my power was turned off this morning.
Unfortunately, we don't do payment arrangements or extensions past the 7-day grace period.
how a disconnection of power for millions of Americans with life support equipment in their homes can mean life or death. But first, they're the microscopic motors that drive your body, and keeping them healthy is vital to aging well.
Think of your cells as every cell is having a tiny little business, and that business needs energy to stay open, right? But if you don't get the energy that you need, then the business is going to close.
We'll share tips on how you can promote healthy cells in your body.
So, we're going all the way back to high school biology, talking about cells. Our body is made up of trillions of them, and they perform a number of important functions, from skin cells that serve as outer protection for the body to muscle cells that are more critical than you may think. What's amazing is that cells have the ability to renew or create new cells and remove cells that are no longer needed or damaged. But there are other factors that can alter cell function, including getting older. Dr. Ray, is there a natural decrease in cell function?
Yeah, as we get older, you're going to get accelerated aging, especially if you damage the cells. And the cells provide the energy for all the organs. So think of your cells as every cell is having a tiny little business, and that business needs energy to stay open, right? But if you don't get the energy that you need, then the business is going to close. So those power plants that give you energy is called mitochondria. And the mitochondria are the ones that are able to repair itself, it's able to fight stress, and you can actually clear out old mitochondria and regenerate new mitochondria. So that's how the body just keeps itself healthy. But as we age, sometimes with stress, poor sleep, inflammation, toxins that we're all exposed to, we start to damage those mitochondria, and they can't regenerate, and we don't clear out the old ones, so they kind of take over. And then you start to get things like your muscles will weaken, tissues start to fail, tissue thins, everything just starts to go downhill. And it's not acutely, it's gradually over time. And what happens is the survival of the fittest. The cell starts to make decisions on what it can do to adapt with this condition that's deteriorating. So it starts making poor choices.
And I see sometimes where families will confuse this, and they'll think that you're just not trying hard enough. And they get so frustrated with our older adults, and they think that they're just not trying, when truly their physical body is worn down, and it's breaking down, and they physically can't. But a lot of this process is a natural aging process. We were not designed to live forever.
Well, here from a layperson, and I really trust what you're saying about cell health, but I'm like a caregiver. What concrete things can you tell me to do to keep my cell health up?
Well, it kind of depends on when you're trying to start. So you're talking about now as a caregiver to this person. All you're trying to do at a certain point in time is to stop any kind of progression. Some things you may not be able to reverse, but you can intervene.
Right,
You know,
like
you
if
can
I
have
said
really
diet,
good,
what
really
would
good
that be?
Diet would be good nutrition in terms of not eating sugar, these ultra processed foods. They create so much inflammation and they create a cascade. And every time we eat food, insulin goes up. And when insulin goes up, it's trying to get you to utilize your blood sugars in a good way, meaning to burn it into the muscle. That's what it's supposed to do. Glucose is supposed to go into the muscle and get burned. But what happens is it can't. So the muscle doesn't want it, so it becomes very resistant. So the glucose level, you eat food, that glucose is in your bloodstream. Blood doesn't want it there either. So what does it do? Insulin causes it to push it to the liver, and the liver stores it as fat, and it starts this whole cascade of inflammation. So nutrition is really, really important.
Critical.
Movement is good also. That's a
Okay.
natural way to lower insulin and to stop all this chronic inflammation, which is a cascade that's going on.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
it's all connected. It's all
is.
connected. And we'll be right back on Aging Untold.
Still ahead.
Am I the best in the world?
Yeah,
Turning hats?
yeah.
No question about it. No, there is no question.
The art and skill behind creating custom carved caps out of wood. But first, she needs power to live, literally.
You get a 7-day grace period to pay your bill. If you need power to live, you get 1 additional day.
1 day.
1 additional day from that 7 days.
So you get 8 days,
Yes.
everyone else gets 7 days.
That's correct.
We examine how your zip code could determine if you're protected from a shutoff when you have life-sustaining medical devices in your home. You can watch Aging Untold anytime online. Go to aginguntold.com or subscribe to the Aging Untold YouTube channel for more.
Most things in our homes run on electricity, from the refrigerator to the lights to the air conditioning. But when the power goes out because of a storm or an unpaid bill, it can be life-threatening for millions of Americans who rely on electricity to operate life-sustaining medical equipment. Brendan Keefe introduces us to a Georgia woman who says keeping the power on is literally a fight for her life.
For all of us, a power outage during a storm is an inconvenience.
Yeah.
For you, it's life.
It's life or death.
These batteries power the heart pump keeping Tina Marsden alive 12 hours at a time. After tornadoes in Georgia, she was powerless for 6 days.
There was a Griffin fireman and his wife. They were like, you shouldn't have to be going through this, and we're going to bring you our generator. And that saved my life.
The power line to her house, a lifeline.
I can come home with a new prescription, and now all of a sudden I can't afford this prescription, so I have to decide between paying a light bill, paying part of a light bill to be able to get maybe a 15-day supply and not a 30-day supply of a prescription.
You're choosing between your heart medication and paying your electric bill that also powers the device keeping you alive.
Yes.
The city of Griffin combines electric, trash, and water charges into a single bill. If you don't pay for garbage collection, they cut off your power.
And I need to be turned back on because I have life-sustaining medical equipment. Unless you're going to allow me to die at home, over $80.
So if you don't pay the $159.89, the services will not be reconnected today.
There's no law in Georgia covering these municipal electrical services or electrical cooperatives. They don't have to follow the same rules as, say, Georgia Power.
That is correct. Their city commissions make their policies.
So you're dependent on the whims of city council
That is correct.
for your life.
That is correct.
Tina fought to get Griffin to add a grace period for medically dependent customers. But before the city commission added 1 extra day,
Hello.
Yes. This is City of Griffin. I'm the collection manager.
Tina got a collections call on her way to the hospital.
We don't do extensions past your 7-day grace period.
It's just a bad time right now because I'm literally in the back of an ambulance being transported to Atlanta Piedmont. I have to have power because I have a life-sustaining medical equipment. I understand you guys don't have a priority list. Like I said, right now it's not a good time. I only answered because I didn't know if you were my doctor's calling.
Okay, well this account has till 6 o'clock today to be paid.
So when I'm in the ambulance, can you say that again? The sirens are on.
The account has until 6 o'clock today to be paid, or it starts coming up on the cutoff list tomorrow.
I mean,
the only way to
7 days.
keep it from going on the cutoff list, you've run out of your 7 days.
I told you I'm in the back of an ambulance. I'm a heart patient, so I'm telling you right now, I'm worried I have a blood clot in my heart. I'm worried about dying.
We asked the mayor of Griffin for an interview or a comment. Initially, he said he couldn't because of, quote, pending litigation, then deferred to the Griffin city attorney, who replied, no comment.
Well, she's great at telling her story, and that's so frustrating. And you can see it's not doing any good to try to converse with the bill collectors because they just aren't getting it. They're like reading a script. They're not even listening. And so here she is in an emergency situation trying to have that conversation. But it's frustrating to me, even people that aren't emergency situations, that don't spend your time talking to people that aren't even listening. You've got to escalate and go up the line. And I hope she has some luck getting things changed.
I don't think she will, because like she said, they are their own entity. They're not falling under anything else. Like I know where we live, there's certain times, if the temperature's a certain time, you can't cut off.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like they have that same regulation.
Right.
So she's probably gonna have a couple of solutions. Either move to someplace that has more regulations or have a backup generator.
But what money is she going to move?
I don't know.
If we're talking, $100 or less is the difference between being able to keep her lights on and she's not able to afford that. Where's the moving coming from? And how far away from her doctors does she have to go to be able to just do something as simple?
You think they have agencies there that might be able to help her?
Well, that was what I was thinking. Like the people that make the equipment that is she relying on? Is there a not-for-profit? Are there any positions that are supporting that would have a foundation or someone that could help pay that darn electric bill so she can live?
Next, this craftsman has no intentions of hanging up his hat anytime soon.
You gonna be doing this at 90?
Hopefully 99. I'm shooting for 99.
We take you inside his workshop where he creates custom wearable wooden works of art. Find more Aging Untold content on your favorite social platform. You can follow Aging Untold on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok now.
Now we want you to meet a Vermont man who took his passion for woodworking and carved out his own niche in fashionable headgear. Here's Joe Carroll with his inspirational story.
At his workshop in Manchester, Johannes Michelson has worn many hats through the years. An Army sergeant in combat in Vietnam.
It was right by my ear.
Who had a close call with death when an enemy sniper nearly took him out.
Yeah.
He's been a carpenter with bulging biceps. A clairvoyant who had a vision from India of a Hindu man in a white flowing robe.
And he was standing there like this, twiddling his thumbs. And he says to me, "You're going to die when you're 81.
In a few weeks, Johannes will be 80.
That's still in my head.
What he's spinning now fits on his head. Wooden hats as unique as Johannes.
It just came naturally. I started doing a little bit of curving, and I said, if a little curving is good, more is better. Yeah, I'm making a shape here.
Howie's a hat guy. He wore the original to a Western-themed wedding. The idea came earlier.
I had it for 10 years before I ever made the first hat.
Johannes became a hatter, madly making close to $2,000 over the last 35 years. The price for his creation hovers around $1,000 apiece. He sets the lathe for 777 rotations a minute.
Just because it's a good lucky number.
Johannes says he was the first wood turner in the U.S. to make these hats.
I made one for Bonnie Raitt. Now I've got some light coming through the wood.
Thin enough to bend, but not too thin to break easily.
This one's small.
That looks like it might fit me.
This one's smaller. Yeah, that works a little better.
Are these the best in the world?
Am I the best in the world?
Yeah.
Turning hats?
Yeah.
No question about no, there is no question.
Johannes has a healthy ego that goes against the grain for some, and he knows it.
I don't let people push me around. Some people just charm everybody. I charm half the people, and the other half hates me.
You gonna be doing this at 90?
Hopefully 99. I'm shooting for 99.
Remember that Indian guy said 81.
Well, my big takeaway is you only have to charm half the people.
Oh, right.
Woo, a lot of pressure off.
You've succeeded there.
I'll
Because
tell you.
half the people are mad at you. Because I love those hats.
Those hats.
Oh, that's
Beautiful.
They're beautiful.
That's
I'm trying to think of who I can get one for. Really, they're like,
amazing.
is artwork coming?
They're amazing. Like, how cool for him to say with confidence, yes, I'm the best in the world.
Well, and
Well, he is.
he's so good. And now I don't know if you ladies have ever turned anything on a lathe, but I actually have.
No.
And to get wood where it's that thin and it can bend,
That's
crazy.
Can you imagine having someone say you're going to die at this age and then you just keep thinking that your whole life through?
Yeah, don't tell me that.
He just had so much heart and just,
But he
really
said he's going to
developed-
go to what, 99? Yeah, so I'm hoping he does, because then I can afford a hat.
Yeah, I'd be going, la, 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 don't tell me those things. I don't want to know.
Yeah, but no, they're beautiful, and every one of them that you saw, and then he made them and wore it in a wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Positivity, one of the keys of positive aging, that's
Yeah,
for sure.
right there.
He sure owns it. You know, we're all getting older, and it's about time we talked about it. Until next time on Aging Untold.
Next time on Aging Untold, age discrimination can have serious impact. But are you part of the problem?
What ageism is, it's a prejudice against our future self.
We'll unpack the effects of age bias and provide strategies to challenge.